Thanks, Mireli.
Thank you, Tati. I don't know if someone has any question, comment. Well, I have another question that probably will help. How can we exercise authentic leadership in our workplaces, knowing the obstacles that we face as Latinos?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, it is clear that we have many obstacles as Latinos, as being part of the minority, working for companies and organizations where there is a majority that does not look like us or do everything the way that we do it. And it's not that Latinos, we all do the same thing either, right? We are very different people with different personalities. But the question here is about the obstacles. So we touched on many obstacles during our seminar. And I think that first of all, we need to understand that there are obstacles, that we cannot change the system as being a minority, working at a majority. We cannot change the system. However, we can influence it. And I think that if we are to focus on bringing results, it's the best way that we get people to hear, to listen to us. If we focus on being the best that we can at whatever position that we have and to bring in the best results for the organization, we will get others to listen to us. And when we do that, then it's again about bringing all of who we are. The fact that we are Latinos is a super plus. It needs to be a super plus. And the company and organization that we work for need to understand that. And it is our duty, our responsibility to not only show them how amazing we are as professionals, but how also the organization can use us, our experience or background of being Latinos. And I think really that we have about 15 people, and I want to encourage everybody who is on the call, and as people get, more people get in, we have this time, it's your time. I really want everybody to ask questions, whether you have, you've done your work, you've completed your homework, or you are in the middle of it, or if you have questions about this subject, let's get it out into the forum that we have here right now, so that we can actually, any question, I am sure that it will help somebody else. So don't be shy, ask questions.
Thank you, Tati. And just to answer Agustine's question about if the slides from the last week be sent out, yes, I will put it on the video and you will receive it and via the email of the notification of video. And please.
Mireli, do you know, I just thought about something. Do people know how they can raise their hand to ask questions?
Yes, but I can repeat it for anyone. If you see the control panel, you can see that there's, and when you see questions, you can see a hand, an icon with a hand. You can click on that and you can make me know that you have a question.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that if people also start to, it would also raise their hand. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Does anyone
Wonderful.
else have any question or a comment? I just want to make some thoughts that I had. I managing the group in Mexico, the leadership group in Mexico, and for me has been very interesting to see how different the visions of the leaders of the U.S. group and the leaders of Mexico are. And even if we say that we are Latinos, we have different ways on how we see leadership and how we struggle with our own battles in the field we are. And I don't know if someone wants to share something about this, because I think what Toti presented in their sessions was very useful for me to understand some of these differences.
That is an excellent point. The environment in which we work when we are outside the U.S. versus the one we work when we are inside the U.S. is very different. And it has, we're not the minority when we are outside the U.S. We are just Latinos. We deal with many other issues and battles and barriers, but it's not the difference of are we Latino or not, because then out there we all are. Different issues come to the table, and the organizations and the cultural values and the way that we work out there. But it's very interesting, really, I agree, how we see ourselves as Latinos when we are in the U.S. versus outside the U.S.
Probably I can have another question just to see if anyone wants to make a question. Is there an example of a more regular Latino leaders who is not so far removed from us?
Oh, sure. And I'm sure that everybody would probably have people in mind. The person that comes to mind, my friend Raymond Arroyo, he is right now the chair of the United Chamber of Commerce, chair of the board. He is an amazing individual, and he comes to mind only because I met Raymond about 30 years ago when I was president of the local chapter of the National Society of Hispanic MBA. And Raymond, back then, was already, he was a partner working for PricewaterhouseCoopers. And we met then in one of these organizations events. He was a very, what struck me back then, what struck me about him was how personable he was. He was already a leader in the organization he was working for, but he was so amazingly open to all of these Latino students. I mean, there were students, MBA students, and then there were people looking for jobs, and there were people just wanting to be able to speak with Latinos in high positions. He was so open about his experience and about helping people individually wherever he could. And I've seen Raymond do this throughout his career. I think one of the things that marked his way, and he shared this before in panels and speeches, is that he didn't have anybody to open the doors for him. And it was really, really hard for him to just get to the places he was able to get. So he wanted, it's like a mission of him, that he wanted to help other people, other Latinos, open the path for them wherever they were. He has done that even after he left PwC. He did that as he was chief HR officer of Aetna. He then retired from the corporate world and has his own amazing firm now that helps Latinos find jobs and move positions. And he's still doing that. So he's a great example, because it's not that he's a great leader in our country, of course, but it's not like an actor or an actress or a judge or a politician that we all know. Many people know Raymond, but he is a regular person just like any of us who grew up, take positions, higher positions, dealing with all the issues that we had to deal with in the corporate world and in the organizational world. And he got a passion helping others, so because of his own experience, he was able to make sure that his mission was accomplished at every post in which he was in, and at every level of responsibility. When he was lower to the amazing places where he got, and is still doing it today. Now it's his own business. That's how much he loves guiding other people and helping Latinos prosper and grow within the organizations. And I hope that was helpful, Mireli.
Thank you,
One
Toti.
example.
I have a question here from Agustin Arbulu. He asked you what are the differences, I guess, from leadership by region. For example, the environment in Southwest states is different than when working or interfacing with others in Northern states. And also Latinos who are from the South America will differ from those in Mexico, as well as socioeconomic background has an influence on how one interfaces with others.
Yes, I agree. There's a lot of differences. A Latino, I think that the way that we feel as Latinos working in the United States may vary a little, but not too much. And it will vary perhaps if we're working in Florida, where we are surrounded by a lot more Latinos. There's a larger number of Latinos in several different states. And when we work in environments where there's a lot more Latinos, then it's a little bit different than when we work in states, for example, Colorado, which is the 8th largest Latino market in the country, but still it is very clear that in the corporate sector or in the organizational sector, there is still a huge lack of Latinos at higher levels. So how we feel would probably not change as much. We are still Latinos working in larger environments for people that usually don't look like us. But I don't think that it is the environment of, say, Oklahoma versus Texas versus Florida. I think it's the number of Latinos, not the state itself, that changes how we feel. Of course, in some states, there are people that are more open and more receiving and more inclusive, that are perhaps used to more diversity. And there are states where the number of us Latinos is so low, that it is just a lot more difficult for them to be a lot more open, I guess, to Latinos. Now, when we're talking about, he also mentioned that Latinos from South America versus Latinos from the U.S. Yeah, even from personal experience, I can share that I never knew I was a minority until I came to the U.S., to the corporate world. And I all of a sudden woke up and said, oh, I guess I'm a minority. And what does this mean? And that's when all these started to make sense to me, that there was these huge differentiators between all of us, in my case, working in the marketing department. So how were we different? And then as I started going up the ladder and being the only one at the table, or one of the few, it became even more obvious how important it was for me to be strong and make sure that I was delivering just as good or better as anybody else, and that I will bring the Latino voice in the most professional and most influential way that I could. And that's what has been one of my inner missions since I started working in this country about 27 years ago.
Thank you, Toti. I don't know if you, Agustin, want me to unmute you to have like a dialogue with Toti. Your mic is open, Agustin.
Hey, gracias. Can you hear me?
Agustin, wonderful that you brought that question up. Thank you.
Well, I do. I don't know if I totally agree with you. I think that residing here in Michigan, I think there's so many socioeconomic factors that come to play. For example, you'll see elements who will feel most comfortable being in a Latino community, un barrio, and then we have others who are much more more diversified. And those who are more diversified have a lot more connections, I observe in my position, compared to those who find themselves more narrowed. Now, obviously, if you're in California, you're in Florida, you're in Southwest United States, there's greater opportunity. I think one has to be very strategic in how they're going to be interfacing, where a Latino community may make up less than 4% of the entire population in the state of Michigan.
Oh, absolutely. In places where there is a low number of Latinos, it's going to be much harder to advance because, as I was saying earlier, they're not used to having Latinos in the workplace. They're not used to us being there. So it's a lot more difficult for us to, I guess, get in at the same level. Now, our discussion, of course, has to do with, although there is a lot of different socioeconomic in and by itself, there is a lot of differences that come in mindset and what you're able to accomplish depending on our backgrounds and experience and where we came from. But our discussion has been about how we as leaders will advance and what are the barriers that are in front of us that we need to see how we can overcome or surpass in order for us to keep growing our leadership. So although there is also levels of education will come into the place when we're looking at various different sub-targets of Latinos. But if we focus our conversation on how we as leaders are in different states in the U.S. or what we deal with when we go into the corporate world or larger organizations or foundations, I think that's when it all of a sudden just becomes a lot more similar because we all deal with very similar types of issues, no matter where we came from and no matter how many Latinos, the number of Latinos are out there, because within those organizations, there are still a low number of Latinos in high positions.
Thank you, Toti. Agustin, do you want to add something else?
No. I listen. I'm hearing what she's saying. I think that you are, when you're a small community, the key is not necessarily to stand out. The key is, because you're a Latino, the key is to stand out because you're making sense and you're able to articulate what you are saying in a way that will capture the others in the mix who are there participating, whether you're with the governor, whether you're with leaders of a community. I think that's very important, though I have to say that it's interesting hearing what you're saying, that with the uptick in immigration enforcement, it's funny how that has sort of empowered communities and people within the communities to be much more vocal than otherwise would have been, which is a good thing. So sometimes in times of crisis, you see people taking on a leadership role, saying things that otherwise they may not be able or didn't feel like doing or stepping up to the table.
I agree. It's a beautiful thing that's happening. And also I think the fact that the numbers have doubled and that they will be tripling, I think it has gotten also other people to pay more attention to what Latinos have to bring, because they are targeting, whether they want it or not, they're all targeting Latinos. No matter what organization or what product, everybody's touching our community, and they need to learn from us. How to best deal with, serve the market, service the market. And so, yeah, I think both, what you're saying is very true. They are, more people are being more empowered to speak up, to have a voice, and there's others more willing to listen because now the numbers are larger.
Thank you, Toti. Thank you, Agustin. I will pass through another person who wants to talk, and I will go through. I know there's a lot of questions, but just be patient. Hilda, I will unmute you, so just wait. Hilda, your mic is open.
Okay, great. Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Hi, Hilda.
Okay. Hi, Toti. This is Hilda Gigi Pedraza. I'm calling for Georgia. First, I wanted to say that I appreciate it was obvious that you made an effort to incorporate a few names and images of Latinos in your last webinar, especially Eva Longoria. But I also wanted to give a little bit of feedback, and, I speak for me personally. I don't intend to represent anybody. I think the webinar, I was disappointed because the webinar, it seems to me, both were focused more on a type of corporate leader. And it is my understanding that Hispanics in Philanthropy, all of us taking the webinar have a background in an interest in public service, nonprofits, in philanthropy in general. So while I appreciate a lot of the content that you gave, it is particularly not relevant to the struggles and the work that I personally have and do in Georgia. I also had a comment similar to Agustin because I absolutely agree with him, and I think there are huge differences in our communities and in the work we do and in the barriers and obstacles that have to do less with where we come from and more with the populations we work with, the type of representation we have at our states, the type of populations, level of education attainment we have in our states. I think I'm the only one from Georgia. The state is very much anti-immigrant. Out of, over almost 150 seats, public elected officials, we have 11. 8 of those are Republican. Half of them do not even identify as Latino because they are alternate, very, very much to the right. So, the majority of our population here has fourth grade education. It's predominantly for Central America and Mexico. We have a huge population that doesn't even speak English. The number one issue when we roll out the Affordable Care Act for people doing outreach, and I was part of this, was the differences in socioeconomic. I come from Peru. I have a master's degree. I have absolutely nothing in common with someone that maybe does not even speak Spanish and comes from Venezuela and is just here, displaced from, an internal conflict. That person has no reason to trust me, even though we are both Latinos. So those are the type of, conversations and discussions and how we can all help each other, how we can all learn from our experiences, how can we, build this network to support what we do and learn about what we do is, what I was really hoping to get. So, that's my comment. I don't intend to, I know I'm not hoping to give me answers to all of that, but I just wanted to, share a little bit where I come from. And again, to Agustin's point, I absolutely agree with you. There are huge differences in the work we do. If you work with to prevent homelessness, the work is completely different to people working on corporate leadership programs. And so those differences need to be acknowledged, I think. So that's all. Thank you.
Well, thanks for your comment, Hilda. So again, like I was telling Agustin, what I would like for us to get back on point is that we're trying, and HIP is trying to help you guys see what is it that in the path of leadership, how could you become more effective leaders, more influential leaders, grow into leadership. And that is why the discussion is not about the exact work we're doing in the community, meaning we're not going to talk specifically about how do we do healthcare for Latinos, or how do we politically influence Latinos better. Those have not been the discussions, at least for these first two, because what we want and the intention is to give you, to first paint the right picture of what a very effective leader is, and that is blind to whether it's what color we are or where we come from. Anybody can be that influential leader. So we wanted to give you what it is first, to what is it that we need to do, no matter who we are and where we come from, to become that type of leader. And then second, the intention of this second one was how, now that you know about authentic leaders, how could you become not just that authentic leader, but how could you own being a Latino leader? How could you own your brand? Because that is what is going to help you get others to listen more to you. If you work on who you are, so it wasn't for corporate America. Anybody and everybody already has a brand. All of us. And it's not just leaders who have a brand. It's not just managers or higher level from managers and up. Everybody at any level in the organization has a brand. And I'm hoping that it was clear that a leader is only one person that is able to influence somebody else. And because of the work that all of you are doing in organizations and foundations and out, even more importantly, when you're trying to create a movement or to move a movement forward, that's even more important, that you know what you stand for and that you have a brand that is clearly known by others, what you stand for, and who are you speaking and how are you speaking about that brand. So it has much less to do with corporate America, but more to do with you being a leader and being your own, the biggest advocate for being how you show up in the world. Because the more that you take care of how you show up in the world, the larger you're going to be, the more conscious you're going to be, the more self-aware, the higher your emotional intelligence, and the more you're going to know what you need to say to be able to influence and get what you stand for, the authentic you, out there.
Thank you, Tati. Before moving to another questions, I just want to thank everyone to being so honest with your comments and questions. And what we are intending to do with this webinars are to give in some tools and tips on how you can improve your leadership. And we know that there will be a lot of differences between regions and probably some other things, but this is part of what we are looking to have a conversation, a discussion on how we can do better things. And I have a question from Daniel Ledesa. He asked you, Toti, from what I've seen, leaders rising to executive positions through a combination of hard work and by being pushed by others. Networking is critical to success. So my question is, how do you network? And more importantly, how can someone effectively leverage their networks? Local networking is easy, but what about national level and international level networking? Any tips?
Sure, and this was Daniel who asked this question?
Yes, Daniel.
Really? Okay. So Daniel, thank you for the question. Networking is vital. And one of the biggest mistakes people make when networking is, you go to a networking event and you just go from one person to the next without actually having a plan. So my suggestion is that if you're going to spend the time and effort going to a networking event, for you to know, have in mind what it is, what's the reason why you're going to this event, so many times we don't know who's going to be there, but we know the type of people, right? We either know, there's this set of politicians that I need for them to know something, and my goal is to be able to touch base with so-and-so. Or we know that, let's say that it is foundations meeting or convention, and that you know that there are other foundations who do similar work to you or complementary work to the organization that you're working for, and perhaps you already know that there will be some leaders, just because they're going to be speakers or because they're going to be honored, and if there's someone or a set of people from a particular organization, then for you to make the effort. But it's easier when you go with a goal in mind, when you know who you want to meet, to be able to just get to that person, even if you don't know them, to just have the courage to say, I'm so and so, and I'm here to, I really want to touch base on this particular issue. I really want to buy. But the one important aspect is for you, that I always recommend when I'm talking about networking, is that for people not to just talk to people and be thinking about who else is in the room that you need to be talking with. It's for you to actually connect with that person, to give that person that you're connecting with 100% of your attention, so that when you leave that person, or even if you have no, and this is going to sound bad, but no use for that relationship with that particular person you just met, you never know who that person knows. What if you share, oh, I'm here to meet so-and-so. Do you happen to know that person? We don't know. So many times people know people. So many times they are close friends. And that person that we thought was really the last person that we could use the help with will be the person that actually opens the door for us. So networking is extremely important. So first of all, then go with the goal in mind. Have the courage to speak with somebody else that and to actually speak your mind about what you're looking for. And also, lastly, and then pay attention, of course, 100% good person. And then lastly, my suggestion then is also that you pay attention, because we're talking about brands in this particular seminar, that you pay attention about how you are showing up to the person you're speaking with, how you are being received, the way that you are voicing who you are and what you stand for, how is that being received, and then you make it a fun game, because it's all about trial and error, right? Sometimes people have a very strict idea about this 30-second commercial of how, that you're supposed to be saying, in a way that you're supposed to be saying what you do for a living. And so my suggestion is, do it in the way that best fits you and your personality, as long as you can say it naturally, as long as it just comes from you in the way that reflects who you are. And Daniel, if you have a follow-up, I hope this was helpful, but if you have a follow-up question, please speak up.
Thank you, Toti. And just to adding to what Toti said, we are also planning some transnational webinars, so in a way you can connect with some leaders here in Mexico. So hope this helps for what you are looking.
Oh, that's right. Daniel did say how to connect with national and international leaders, and conventions and national meetings are an excellent way to connect with national and international meetings. Yeah. People.
So soon you will have more information with that transnational webinars. I have another comment from Magali Arboleda, and she says, I completely disagree. In the world of philanthropy, we need to understand the corporate world. Influences our funding greatly. It is in our best interest to understand them and think like them. It's more like a comment, like a question, but.
Okay. Was she referring, do you want to?
Yeah, sure.
Perhaps, yeah, she can speak up, and
sure.
Magali, if you would like to be, is she unmuted?
Yeah, Magali's already unmuted. Magali, do you want to?
Okay.
Hello?
Magali? Yeah, you can. Would you please explain a little bit more about what you are disagreeing with?
She's unmuted, but I don't think. Magali? Well, I don't know if someone else have a question or any other comment. Daniel, I unmute you just if you want to add something about what Toti said. Daniel?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Hi, everyone. No, thank you for the advice. So that question was sort of just coming from thinking. Actually, it's funny that following the comment came up afterwards, thinking about how you can leverage your connections not only to other philanthropists but also to private sector organizations, be it local, regional, state level, national, or even international corporations who are interested in different philanthropic efforts that are happening here in the U.S. So that's really where my question was coming from, and your response was helpful.
Great.
Wonderful. Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to ask a question to Toti, or you have any other comment? I think Magali wants to talk, but her mic is not working. So can you rewrite your question or your comment so I can read it to Toti, please, Magali? There is another question from or comment from Roberto Franco. He says, it seems that we have also come to define leadership and leaders by the position being held, that the higher the position, the better leader. It also seems to be based on a very individualistic view, a very capitalistic approach. So in developing branding, where can we infuse the concept of community as such is the value that we hold as people from Latin America?
So that is a really good question. So a lot of people do believe that position defines leadership. And as we already know, for what we were studying in the seminar, we know that that what makes a leader is not the position, is who the leader is, and is how he's able to influence or not somebody else. So if the question I'm sorry, who was the person who made the question? Ms. Daly?
Sure, I can repeat it.
So
in developing branding, where can we infuse the concept of community as such is the value that we hold as people from Latin America?
No, I was asking the name of the person who wrote the
sorry,
question.
Roberto.
Robert, yes, Roberto. So when we talk about community, I think it's even easier in branding to just brand yourself because with the values of what you care about a particular cause or a particular either a cause that covers so many people or a set of principles for a certain, say, health or for a certain industry in particular. So it's easier because usually when you're talking about community, it's about getting a group of people to enhance the way those people are living in some way, particular way. So it's not just what you believe as a person, but you probably have already joined an organization that carries the same values, that you have the same values in common with the organization and the cause of the organization that is trying to get in the community or for the community. So my idea, my suggestion then would be that you have first why, very clear for you, what's the reason that you are working for this cause or for this type of organization that has a particular cause in mind. and that if your principles, and sounds like totally they are, principles are in alignment with those of the organization, then I believe that somehow those become one when you are representing the organization and then looking to move the cause forward. So when that happens, because you already know your cause, inner cause, and you already know that you're in alignment with the organization, I believe that that's when you hit the best and most special place in branding, because then you are speaking your voice and that of the organization and that of the community all at once. You become so passionate when everything is in alignment that it is very clear for everybody else who is listening to you, first what you stand for, the impact that you want to have in the community, and then people, their only reaction there is after is whether they're going to be joining your cause or not, and how they will be able to help your cause or not. And Robert, I hope this was helpful.
I'm going to mute you, Robert.
Follow-up question?
Roberto, you're unmuted, so if you want to talk. Roberto?
Yeah, yes, this is Roberto. It's helpful. I still have to think more about it. It's just that the whole idea that at least in the communities that I've grown up is people do things because things need to get done without calling themselves leaders. And so we'd have to, I guess, adopt this concept of leadership that, at least again, talking about personally, that growing up in Latin America, you do things because things need to get done, and you're not put on a place and be named a leader because because it's also done in a community, as a community. So I guess it's part of the challenge of working and living in a different society that, again, places high value on one individual person, rather on a group of people or a group of or a community, for example. But yeah, there's a lot to digest in this.
Wonderful. Just remember that you can be the change maker. You can be that influencer, especially when you are completely aligned with the cause.
Thank you, Roberto. Magali, you are unmuted, so if you want to make your comment. Are you Magali?
I'm calling on the phone line. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yay.
Okay, I'm very excited. I have many challenges in order to speak. So I think just my comment from before was in response to a comment that was made where perhaps the corporate point of view wasn't relevant to us. And I think that, at least just me, I think I find myself in sort of an in-between position in both my Hispanic identity and also between the corporate and the philanthropic world, because I am in a fundraising role. I do find that I have to build those relationships with the corporate world and find a way to really marry it with what the organization is doing mission-wise. So, I mean, I will say that I thought that actually that was very helpful and very relevant, because I do find that I have to mesh in both worlds. And then just, thinking of my own Latino identity, and I'm not sure if others feel this way, but so I was actually born in the States. Parents are South American, Colombian particularly. And I did find myself traveling back and forth a lot as a kid. And I always felt, I guess, I have the song that goes, no soy de aquí ni de allá. And that's how I always felt. And I realized that I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take the best of each one and create my own thing with it and go with it as I can. But I guess my question also is those were a few comments but I do have a question about networking. So I know the importance of it, and as a fundraiser, I see how valuable it is to me, and really it's, you know, the bread and butter of my day-to-day. But I think what I wanted to know is, what are ways or what are tools that we can use in order to create value for the person that we are networking with? So maybe I find myself that I need something from someone, but I also realize that it's more valuable if I'm bringing something to the table to them as well. And I'm not sure if I have something tangible or relevant to them at that moment, but I guess I wanted to know if there were any tools that I could use, or, you know, to bring it to or to actually give something to them.
Sure. And that, I love that you asked that, Magali, because I'm going to give you the golden way of networking. So it is not about, when you start talking with somebody, especially when you need something from that person, let that interaction not be about what you need at that moment when you don't know the person, you're just meeting them, right? Let that interaction be about what you could do for them. So people love to talk about themselves. What if you genuinely, if you know you have the person that you wanted to meet in front of you, what if you start asking questions about what that person, who that person is, and what they care about, and then try to figure out when they explain to you what is it that they're looking for, what is the organization going through that they might need some help with, or is this person, well, you are in a fundraising role, so probably you are meeting a lot of either organizations or very wealthy individuals that are going to be investing in your effort, right, in your cause.
Correct.
So if there are, for example, foundations or organizations or corporate organizations with money, why don't you try to see how the corporate organization or either one of those three, they would always have a reason why they will invest in something. So something is moving them. There might be an alignment between what the corporation does with the cause. So start listening for what is it that they care about. Because then you will be able to make that connection and come back with a proposal that would actually make sense for them. So the gold advice is that the way to network is to actually listen 90% to the other people, talk 10%, listen 90%, and always make so many questions until you get to the point of understanding what is it that they need. Because then you can make yourself valuable. No matter what organization it is, you will always be able to make yourself valuable if you actually know who they need to meet, how they need to change the organization, the foundation, the corporation, what is it that they're looking for. Because even with connections, sometimes it's as simple as that. Connect somebody with somebody else, they will not forget the favor. Then you can come back and actually make a proposal that makes sense on your behalf.
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you, Magali.
I see people attending. I want to hear more questions.
I have another question here, and it's from Agustin. And isn't this about being flexible and agile? Successful individuals are those who know when to change and shift with or comprising core values. Talking about being an active listener. I don't know, Agustin, if you want to be unmuted again. Agustin?
Well, I was just thinking really in terms of flexibility and agility and being an active listener. That's what I'm hearing her say, which are core attributes of individuals who are able to understand the person that you're interfacing with. And that is always important in any position that you find yourself. I don't know if it's necessarily a I listen to you, I give you what you want, then you're able to give me what I want. I'm never quite sure that I buy into a pure transactional approach. I think it's about being building a relationship that may take time to get to the point that you can be influential in the surrounding that you're in. So I don't necessarily buy into a transactional relationship, and I think that that's what I'm hearing in part. So you give them what they want, so they give you what you want. To me, that's transactional.
So, but it doesn't happen immediately, right? It's not like you just meet the person, you listen to what they say in that one meeting, and then all of a sudden you're asking for something. No,
you didn't. I don't think you do. I don't think you ever.
No, yeah, I agree.
What you want.
Mm-hmm.
You're building a relationship, and relationship building is something that takes time, and that it's a matter of how much you put into it, and it has a lot of different factors to it. I do agree that active listening is very important to be successful, because then you know how to interface with the person on the other side, and I think that's critical to success.
Yes, I do agree with that. And also, if you add to that the giving part, it's just even if you don't call it transactional, it's what happens when you give, you receive so much more. And when you're able to help that person in any way that you can, the person will start having, you will create that relationship stronger much faster when you give.
I agree.
Thank you, everyone. And we are coming to the end of this session. So I don't know, Tori, if you want to make some final comments, remarks, whatever you want, and so we can close this session.
Sure. Well, I just want everybody to just be, it's hard to teach you something that we take time over months to these types of exercises and this type of understanding, but we wanted to give you at least a base, a taste for what it is and an understanding of how important building a brand is for each one of you. So I'm hoping that that through these exercises are the start of building your own brand, of reflecting on who you are, so that you can actually show up the way that you really want to show up for others. Many times we don't even think about how we're showing up and what our brand is being out there. And it is important to know to be a good leader. It is important to know how we are being received. Otherwise, our effectiveness is cut short. So even if this, after you do all of these exercises, you feel that you still don't have a strong brand, well, do know that this is the beginning, right? But at least begin, because all of this reflection and all of this doing is going to take you, you're going to be much farther down the line of self-awareness than many other leaders out there, which means that this is going to put you in a better position when the opportunity comes knocking your way. So please do the exercises. Please think about your brand. We all have one, so we might as well just take care of it. Please know what you stand for and how you are relating that to others. I am here if you guys need me, and as you go to the exercises, Mireli and Michael, the HIP team, and I are always here to help. So I wish every one of you the best of luck in this program. I hope that it helps you a lot in becoming better leaders, more effective leaders, and in advancing every one of your causes that you want. And just remember, in Denver, please say hello when you come to Denver. and I hope to meet many of you in person, in wherever whether it's in Denver or when we see each other anywhere else. Thank you, Nareli. Thank you, Heath, and best of luck for everybody.
Thank you, Tati, and please continue the conversation in video. And I think Michael sent you all the information about the next webinar. So thank you and have a good evening. Bye.